Inflation Reduction Act, Washington reportedly responded positively. Meanwhile, rival lawmakers passed a resolution that opposes the bill and called for active negotiations. Concerns mount as Hinamnor has strengthened to a super strong typhoon. According to Thursday's forecast, it may reach the Korean Peninsula early next week. Tanuri has successfully taken a photo of the Earth and Moon. The pictures taken using a Korean-made camera installed on South Korea's first lunar orbiter is unveiled by the Science Ministry.
Hello and welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Chen. Let's begin with our top story. Washington has vowed to look into the potential impact of the Inflation Reduction Act on South Korean automakers at the NSC level. That's according to South Korea's National Security Advisor, who is in Hawaii for meetings with his U.S. and Japanese counterparts, amid concerns that the IRA could hurt companies like Hyundai and Kia that make their flagship EV models in Korea and ship them overseas. Following a meeting with his American counterpart on Wednesday local time, Kim Sung-han told reporters that Jake Sullivan pledged to closely review how the EV subsidy issue will pan out and the potential impact on Korean firms. IRA signed into law by President Joe Biden last month bans tax credits for vehicles assembled outside of North America. South Korean officials have wrapped up a U.S. trip where they expressed concerns over the Inflation Reduction Act. The delegation proposed a joint consultative channel to efficiently discuss the matter, which drew a positive response from Washington. Kim Da-mi has the full story.
Washington responded positively to Seoul's proposal to create a joint consultative channel to efficiently talk through issues related to the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act. Wrapping up a 3-day visit to Washington on Wednesday, the head of the South Korean Trade Ministry's New Trade Order Strategic Bureau, An Sang-il, told reporters that the U.S., including the White House, fully understands Korea's concerns. An added the Biden administration realizes the severity of the matter and is ready for talks as it considers South Korea an ally. Details on forming a consultative body will be discussed next week during a visit by South Korea's trade minister to Washington. In fact, the latest issue is expected to have topped the agenda during a bilateral meeting between the National Security Advisors of South Korea and the U.S. in Hawaii on Wednesday. But in terms of holding negotiations, the clock is ticking. In order for the bill to be amended or even for enforcement to be delayed for 2 to 3 years, there needs to be approval from both the Senate and House of Representatives. In fact, the U.S. side reportedly said it will take some time to analyze because the bill has just recently been passed. Officials from the South Korean Ministries of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Finance have already requested that the U.S. Trade Representative and Commerce Department revise the bill and delay its enforcement until 2025. That will make buyers of its vehicles eligible for the U.S. tax credit of $7,500, which the Inflation Reduction Act eliminates for cars assembled outside of North America. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
Back here in the nation, Parliament also joined a series of efforts to lodge complaints over the IRA. It passed a resolution on Washington to apply the equal tax incentives to South Korea-built EVs, citing potential violation of trade agreements. Lee Kyung-eun has the details.
The National Assembly on Thursday kicked off its September session, keeping the nation's legislative branch operating at full capacity for the next 100 days. During the first plenary session, lawmakers passed a resolution lodging a complaint over the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act, which could leave South Korean carmakers losing ground in the global auto market.
The Inflation Reduction Act is expected to bring enormous damage to South Korean exports of electric vehicles as it provides subsidies only to EVs assembled in North America.
It's a concern for South Korean car makers like Hyundai and Kia who make their flagship models at domestic plants and ship them overseas. The resolution also points out that the law could violate trade agreements between Seoul and Washington.
We express serious concern over the Inflation Reduction Act, which could violate WTO rules and the Seoul-Washington Free Trade Agreement if it's applied.
The resolution also calls on the South Korean government to pursue active diplomatic negotiations with Washington and to prepare a response against the impact on the other domestic industries. Also passed during the session is a law for Korean men who hold multiple citizenships. It allows them to give up on Korean nationality even after passing the legal deadline on certain conditions, like when holding dual citizenship prevents them from getting public sector jobs. Previously, they had to give up on Korean nationality within 3 months after turning 18 years old. Otherwise, they could do so only after completing mandatory military service. The following plenary sessions will likely see passage of laws aimed at easing people's economic burden amid high inflation, exchange rate, and interest rate. Yoon, Arirang News.
The nation's imports exceeded exports for the 5th consecutive month, with the country's biggest ever trade deficit recorded for August. The monetary figures for both outbound and inbound shipments reached new highs as well. Here's Lee with a breakdown of the digits.
South Korea in August recorded its biggest ever monthly trade deficit. Data released Thursday by the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy show the balance of trade last month was in the red by over $9.4 billion, the most since the figure was first compiled. It's also the first time in 14 years that there's been a deficit for 5 months in a row. Exports of goods in August amounted to roughly $56.6 billion for an on-year increase of 6.6%. That's an all-time high for any month of August, despite Russia's invasion of Ukraine and monetary tightening around the world. Driving exports were petroleum products, cars, and batteries for electric vehicles, all of which rose to new August highs.
This shows how the industry is transforming. You can see that there's a rise in demand for renewable energy and rechargeable batteries in particular. But exports of semiconductors, on the other hand, dropped for the first time in just over 2 years because of lower demand and lower prices.
And though a record amount of goods exports would normally be seen as impressive, imports were up by even more at 28.2% year-on-year to around $66.1 billion. That's yet another all-time high, largely due to the rising costs of energy and raw materials. The extreme heat in August led to greater demand for oil, coal, and gas to fuel the country's energy needs. In response to the growing trade deficit, the South Korean government is going to provide more than $250 billion in trade financing to help boost exports.
The trade deficit is one of our top priorities. The government is going to do everything it can to deal with it by strengthening our export strategies. Around $260 billion will be provided in trade financing, and there will be expanded support in terms of logistics costs.
The government's also going to promote highly promising sectors like bio and EV batteries and help Korea win large-scale export projects like defense procurement deals and nuclear plant construction. Lee Hyun, Arirang News.
The South Korean won hit another low against the greenback at around 12:50 p.m. local time. The exchange rate crossed 1,355, the highest intraday rate this year and the highest since April 2009 in the aftermath of the global financial crisis. The exchange rate hit a new high for the year on Wednesday as well, as rising interest rates in the U.S. further strengthened the dollar. By the end of the Thursday session, the won traded at 1,354.9. The country is seeing a growing number of COVID-19 related deaths. In fact, it's the highest in 4 months. To be better protected, the public will soon have more options for vaccines. Song Yoo-jin brings the updates.
COVID-19 related deaths are peaking here in South Korea. The Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency confirmed on 112 deaths on Thursday. That's the highest number in over 4 months. The number of critically ill patients is also showing no signs of letting up, staying in the 500s for 9 straight days. On the other hand, the daily virus tally is on a downward trend. 81,573 new cases is the lowest for Thursday in 6 weeks. Meanwhile, there are some changes to the country's vaccination scheme. Reservations for South Korea's first homegrown vaccine by SK Bioscience, SKYCoV-1, are open from Thursday for people aged 18 and over. They'll be administered from September 13th as part of an initial 2-dose regimen. And from next week, teenagers will have more vaccine options too. Currently, those between the ages of 12 and 17 can only get Pfizer's. But from Monday, Novavax will be added to the list. The KDC made the decision based on expert opinions and studies showing that the shot was almost 80% effective in preventing COVID-19 in that age group. Health authorities hope this will help boost the relatively low vaccination rate among teenagers. Currently, a little over 65% of those aged 12 to 17 have had their first 2 shots, while the national average is at 87%. 송유진, Arirang News.
President Yoon Suk-yeol pledged to strengthen public benefit system to find and help those experiencing financial difficulties. Visiting a local community center in Seoul, the South Korean leader vowed to overhaul the legal and information systems so that there are no blind spots, while mentioning a recent tragedy in which a mother and her 2 daughters took their lives in Suwon, apparently, and to escape death and illness. He highlighted the need to work together with hospitals, banks, and religious facilities in local communities to find those in need. Yoon also visited the home of an elderly woman living alone and going through financial difficulties and brought her a gift for Chuseok. There he pledged to provide more services tailored to the needs of seniors. A super typhoon is heading in the direction of South Korea. Hinamnor is currently southeast of Taiwan and is expected to weaken before it gets here. But still, those in the nation can expect strong winds and heavy rain. Lee Shi-yu fills us in.
The strongest global storm of this year, Typhoon Hinnamnor, has strengthened to a super strong typhoon, and according to Thursday's forecast, it may reach the Korean Peninsula early next week. According to the Korean Meteorological Administration on Thursday, Hinamnor was about 500 kilometers southeast of Taipei, Taiwan on Thursday afternoon. It is moving westward through the Pacific Ocean at about 11 kilometers per hour, packing a maximum central wind speed of 54 meters per second, or a little over 194 kilometers an hour. It's expected that the typhoon will continue to move further southwest before turning northward on Friday. By the early morning next Monday, September 5th, it will be about 500 kilometers south of Jeju Island. On Tuesday morning, it is forecast to pass by the eastern side of Jeju and pass the peninsula through the Korea Strait. But the exact route of the typhoon remains uncertain. The Korean Meteorological Administration classifies the intensity of typhoons into 4 categories: normal, strong, very strong, and super strong. Currently, a super strong typhoon, Hinamnor, could create enough force to destroy buildings. Typhoon Memi, which left a lot of damage on the Korean Peninsula back in 2003, was also classified as a super strong typhoon. Fortunately, as Hinamnor reaches the Korean Peninsula, it will likely weaken to a very strong typhoon, which has maximum wind speeds of 158 to 194 kilometers per hour. A very strong typhoon can still move or push over people and large rocks. If Hinamnor moves as forecast, Jeju and the southern parts of South Korea will be affected by strong winds and rainfall. Beginning on Thursday, the oceans near the Jeju Island will be affected. Then on Friday, the winds and rain will start affecting the island and southern parts of the peninsula, dropping 30 to 80 millimeters of rain per hour. A wind and waves advisory is expected to be issued for Jeju Island on Friday. Some parts of Gangwon-do and Gyeongsangbuk-do provinces could also get some rain. Lee Si-hu, Arirang News.
Elsewhere around the world, many parts of Pakistan have been hit hard by devastating floods. Now the country faces outbreaks of disease in these areas, mainly due to damaged sanitation facilities. Kim Jong-shi reports.
The World Health Organization reported on Wednesday that the flood crisis in Pakistan has further escalated the possibility of disease outbreaks, such as acute watery diarrhea, dengue fever, malaria, and COVID-19. It said the risk is higher, especially in areas where water and sanitation facilities have been damaged. Pakistan's Climate Minister Sherry Rehman also confirmed this warning on Wednesday in a news conference. Speaking to reporters, Rehman said swarms of mosquitoes have been found in the affected areas of Sindh, Baluchistan, and Punjab, which increases the risk of waterborne diseases. The minister said earlier this week that the latest flooding has been caused by global warming and that Pakistan is responsible for less than 1% of global emissions. Climate change, she says, has made the climate in Pakistan a living hell and called for countries emitting large amounts of carbon dioxide to review their policies. Since mid-June, Pakistan has seen unusual rainfall significantly heavier than the annual average. At least 1,100 people have died from the floods. 1/3 of the country's territory is currently underwater, which has affected 33 million people. Meanwhile, the WHO has classified Pakistan as a Grade 3 emergency, the highest level of its internal grading system, requiring maximal WHO response. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
Inspectors from the IAEA are at the nuclear power plant in Zaporizhzhia, hoping to prevent a potentially devastating accident at the facility under the control of Russian forces. Even as the officials arrived, military activity continued in the area. Shin Ha-young has the latest.
After arriving in the Ukrainian city of Zaporizhzhia on Wednesday, the International Atomic Energy Agency's inspection team then departed for the nuclear power plant on Thursday. Its goal is to ensure safety around the Russian-occupied plant, where recent shelling has sparked fears of a nuclear accident. The head of the IAEA vowed to continue the mission despite an early shelling attack on a town nearby.
We are moving. We are aware of the current situation. There has been increased military activity, including this morning, until very recently, a few minutes ago. But weighing the pros and cons, and having come so far, we are not stopping.
His remarks came after the ongoing shelling in Narhora, a 2-hour drive from the nuclear power plant. The same day, Ukraine's nuclear operator reported that due to the shelling, the 5th reactor was shut down and its emergency protection system was activated. The plant has 6 reactors, only 2 of which have been functioning. The Ukrainian energy minister had urged IAEA to check the nuclear safety and security aspects of the facility, while the Russian foreign ministry spokeswoman said that Russia is doing everything necessary to ensure the safety of the mission. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
Samsung's defector chief will serve as a presidential envoy for Busan's bid to host the 2030 World Expo. According to the top office, Lee Jae-young has been chosen in case there's a need to dispatch special envoys. The Samsung Electronics vice chair will reportedly visit Britain this month to meet the new prime minister and ask for support. SK Group chairman Choi Tae-won is expected to visit Japan soon, also to drum up support for the bid. South Korea is competing with Italy and Saudi Arabia. The winner will be announced in next November. People in South Korea and Japan are apparently feeling more positive about each other's countries than in recent years. According to a survey conducted by the nation's East Asia Institute and Japan's Genron NPO, South Koreans found positive perceptions of Japan rose to 30.6%, up from last year's 20.5%. This is the highest level since 2019, when it was almost 32%. Bilateral ties remain sour in recent years over historical and territorial disputes, but the two governments have been making moves recently to improve ties. People in Japan are apparently more positive about South Korea too, with a rate of 30.4%, the second highest figure since the surveys were first conducted back in 2013. South Korea's first lunar orbiter has successfully taken its first photos of the Earth and the Moon. The Ministry of Science and ICT on Thursday released the photos taken 1.24 million kilometers and 1.3 million kilometers away from our planet. Tanuri used a camera with high resolution made by the Korea Aerospace Research Institute. This is the first time South Korean technology has been used outside the Earth's range of gravity. Tanuri is scheduled to carry out a trajectory correction maneuver on Friday to travel to the Moon. The Korea Tongan Festival begins. It's an annual retail campaign aimed at boosting consumer spending. This year, people can take part in various events in person. Choi Min-jung tells us more.
Don't miss out on one of the biggest chances to shop at bargain prices here in South Korea. The country is holding a nationwide discount event, the Korea Tongan Festival, for 7 days starting Thursday. This annual retail campaign with the name Dongheng, meaning going together, aims to boost consumer spending to help revitalize the economy. The main focus is to help small and medium-sized businesses and small merchants.
Last year, the event was held as the Korea Dongheng Sale, but this year the name has been changed to the Korea Dongheng Festival to make this a festival where large conglomerates, SMEs, ventures, and citizens can all come together to encourage and support each other at a time of economic difficulty.
The Ministry of SMEs and Startups says more than 6,000 companies are offering goods at discounted prices, both online and offline. Some 230 distribution channels are taking part, offering up to 80% discounts on a variety of items. Department stores are giving out movie tickets, discount coupons, and tickets for cultural events for those who spend a certain amount of goods produced by SMEs. Some 1,700 traditional marketplaces are offering discounts and promotional events. Consumers can get discounted items online as well. Around 120 private and public online shopping malls are offering discounts of up to 80%. People can also shop for bargains through live commerce on online platforms or TV home shopping. Apart from all the discounts, there's also the chance to win up to 1 million won, or around $740. All you have to do is spend at least $22 on items made by small or medium-sized firms. Take a snapshot of the receipt and enter an online raffle. In addition to the main events, the Korea Dongheng Festival is also holding a variety of social media challenges to boost public interest and participation. People can also take part in diverse cultural performances and events going on across the nation. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Nocturnal tours at the Gyeongbokgung Palace kicked off today. Be sure to book early as tickets always sell out pretty quickly. To provide a glimpse of what to expect, Kim Young-sung went there to check it out.
The Korean Royal Palace basking in the moonlight. Gyeongbokgung night tours are back for this fall season. The palace gates will be open from 7 to 9:30 p.m. until November 6th. This is one of the most popular events held here. People are coming here in droves, all teeming with excitement.
It looks really beautiful. In the daylight, you can see this place with a clear view, but at night, it's a different atmosphere. I highly recommend it because you can really feel the beauty of Korean architecture.
It's been more meaningful that I came here on the first day. And I came here when it's raining, but seeing this place at night really shows a different side.
Tickets for the night tour sell out almost immediately. Slots for the entire month of September have sold out already. The second round of ticket sales for evening tours in October and November opens up on September 23rd. Tickets are only 3,000 Korean won, or a little over $2. But visitors who fail to secure tickets have no reason to be disappointed.
If visitors come here wearing hanbok, the Korean traditional attire, like the one that I'm wearing right now, they can come enjoy the night tours for free without the ticket.
And great hanbok rental places are just around the corner, all with beautiful selections and affordable price tags. But visitors may want to check the time and the calendar before they get here, because the palace only lets new visitors in until 8:30 p.m. The night tours also close on Mondays and Tuesdays, except during national holidays like Chuseok on September 12th or around National Foundation Day on October 3rd and 4th. Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
The capital region and the surrounding areas were almost sweltering today. Highs will be similar tomorrow at 30 degrees Celsius in Seoul. Then seasonable heat will start to ease off by the weekend. Meanwhile, a super typhoon Hinnamnor is forecast to approach Jeju Island around early next week. Hinamnor is rated as a very strong typhoon with a central pressure of 915 hectopascals. The super typhoon will slightly weaken as it approaches the Korean Peninsula, but it will still maintain its intensity with wind speeds of up to 50 meters per second. Jeju Island and southern areas have already started to receive some rain tonight. This round of rainfall will continue until Saturday. Torrential downpours are expected for Jeju Island with up to 300 millimeters in the forecast. The south coast will see about 50 to 100 millimeters. Morning lows in Seoul and Gwangju will be starting off at 20 degrees. As for the daily highs, Seoul will be reaching 30 degrees, Chuncheon 28, Daegu and Busan will make it to 26 degrees. The powerful typhoon will start to push in heavy water vapors into the peninsula, bringing nationwide rain on Sunday. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
It's time to wrap things up. As always, thank you for staying with us.